The UK economy has a lot of challenges right now, so Rishi Sunak's spring statement was greatly anticipated, but it got quite the mixed reaction, with the Financial Times describing it as smoke and mirrors. So let's unpack what this actually means for people and see if Rishi has the right approach for the UK economy. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Ollie and this is Economics Unlocked. Cutting fuel duty by 5p a litre was one of the biggest announcements in the statement, which will no doubt be popular with motorists, but it's a terrible idea. This policy will come with huge amounts of leakage. To start with, fuel duty affects both the demand and the supply side of the energy market, and while the exact split of the tax burden between consumers and producers is contested, there's no doubt that a cut in fuel duty gives money to oil producers, many of whom are already making huge profits from the energy crisis, and some of which are Russian-owned and controlled. Add to this the fact that the government should be trying to reduce demand for hydrocarbons right now, and this policy seems quite wasteful, while adding fuel to the climate change fire. On top of this, the policy helps wealthy motorists just as much as poorer ones, which adds to the wasted money lost through this policy. The government could have kept fuel duty and used the money to fund means-tested support to those struggling the most with the cost of living. Instead, universal credit will rise by only 3.1%, despite inflation forecast to peak at 9% this year, leaving poorer households to make up the gap. If you want to learn more about the UK energy market at the moment, then you can watch our full video on it here, and you can also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future content. Ultimately, for those concerned about the rising petrol costs, this statement has little comfort to offer. When it comes to climate change, the Chancellor included a 5% cut in the VAT paid on solar panels, heat pumps and insulation. This is a very welcome announcement, which will make it easier for people to upgrade their heating systems, although it is worth noting that new build houses don't pay VAT on materials anyway, so this policy will have no impact on new houses. In fact, the spring statement was quite notable for the lack of new funding to climate change initiatives, which will make climate targets more difficult to achieve and leave the country more vulnerable to global shocks in oil and gas markets. Inflation is ripping through the UK economy and will make it harder for people to afford the living standards they have come to expect. Inflation hit 6.2% in February and will likely rise throughout the year. For those worried about this, the Chancellor's statement offered little comfort here either. Despite raising the thresholds at which workers pay national insurance and promising to cut income tax in a few years' time, these measures were offset by other tax rises, and the UK's tax burden will rise further this year to its highest level since the 1940s. In fact, those on the median wage are set to lose £360 according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies think tank. And the Office for Budget Responsibility says that after tax, household disposable incomes will see the largest fall in a single year since records began in 1956. So what could Rishi have done differently? Well, inflation gave the Chancellor a £50 billion windfall from higher than expected tax revenues. And this could have been used to cushion some of the inflationary pressures on households through greater increases in the current means-tested support. Sunak decided to freeze the thresholds at which people pay income taxes, but he could have raised these by the rate of inflation, as is normal in other years. Instead, the Chancellor has banked most of the tax windfall for his pre-election cut in income tax. The convoluted smoke and mirrors approach to raising taxes is unhelpfully deceptive and will leave the tax burden falling more heavily on those in work than those living off their assets, such as pensioners. Sunak is giving with one hand and taking with the other, and the Resolution think tank says this will mean an extra 1.3 million people falling into absolute poverty next year. The UK economy is not alone in its struggle against inflation, but like many economies, it faces the dangerous prospect of entering a high-cost, low-growth era for the first time since gaining an independent central bank. With little help from the government, UK households will need to tighten their belts and prepare for prices to rise dramatically across the board. For policymakers, the risks of stagflation or of wage price spirals remains very real, and navigating the UK economy through this period will require much more than smoke and mirrors. Well, that's it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like more content from us, then you can watch videos here, and you can subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on our future content. But thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.